the bot mastery with Python. And for our session, we have Solomon, which is popularly known as Lord Ghost, and it's going to be starting the session. I think he's here with us. So it's going to be starting now. Yeah, Lord Ghost X, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, so you can take on from here now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen. Okay, let me share my screen now. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. We can see your screen.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Solomon saying, and I'll be taking the session, which is bot mastery, which is getting started with bot development in Python. So first about me, I'm Solomon saying, also known as Lord Ghost X. I'm a Python and Golang developer, and I'm also a technical writer. So let's get started. What is a bot? So a bot is a software application that is programmed to do specific tasks. So bots are just basically programs, softwares that are programmed to do a particular thing. Let's say send an email to this person every morning, or just basically automate some kind of process. So some facts about bots. About 61% of consumers feel that having chatbots in customer service is the future. Bots also drive about 40% of internet traffic. So what can bots do? Bots can serve as customer support to help resolve user queries. They can scrape the web for information. They can act as virtual assistants. They can help in healthcare to diagnose ailments. They can help you book reservations, automate your daily routine. Some people do use bots for some advanced tasks. On categories of bots. So we have chatbots. So chatbots are a category of bots that just allow you chat with them. So for example, now I'm sure some of you might have visited some websites, and then you decide to head on to their customer support, and they are chatting with their customer support, and they are getting immediate responses. Some of the time might not actually be a human being which is like sending you a reply, but a bot that is like trained to help you, to just help resolve your queries, answer some basic questions that you might have, and then just help you automate some processes that a normal customer support agent would do. Another category of bots include web scrapers and crawlers. So a web scraper is a kind of bot that just goes to the web and then scrapes a particular kind of information and then does some processing with it or save the data for future usage. While web crawlers, like, they continuously crawl the internet for links and like resources. So for example, now Google is an example of a web crawler. Google goes around the internet and then indexes a lot of websites, scrapes a lot of information. So when you need information about something, it just directly links you to information that it has scraped before. So we also have social media bots. So social media bots are kinds of bots that are integrated with social media. For example, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Discord. So they are just basically like you. Okay. Is it me or is the recording echoing? Okay. So social media the social media bots are kind of bot, they are like Telegram accounts. So you see a Telegram account, but then it's being operated by code. You send a message to it, and then there's a code that is managing, that is going to help you process, that is going to do whatever you want it to do. So they are not basically, they are not like human beings that are chatting through social media account, but like software that is operating through a Telegram account. We have informational bots. So this kind of bot just basically give you news updates, give you information and all of that, notifications and all of that. Entertainment bots, these are examples. This entertainment bots can include game bots. Like you're playing a game with, let's say, a computer or something. That is a form of entertainment, and then the response that you are seeing is being powered by a bot. We have virtual assistants. So an example of this is Siri, Google Assistant, and the rest. We have spam bots. These are used by malicious people to, like, let's say, spam comment sections, spam the internet for information and all of that, spam emails and all of that. You also have malicious bots. So malicious bots just basically like help, what I put it, the bad people in cybersecurity world just like do something. So an example can be like downloading of malware. Even malware itself can be a form of malicious bot and the rest. So now, how are bots created? So we highlighted before that bots are created with software. So now, what are some programming languages that can be used to create bots? We have Python, Golang, Java, JavaScript, Ruby, Clojure, and many more. As long as the programming language can be used to like create some form of program that can do specific tasks, then it can be used to create a bot. So in the affect exercise, we're going to write a bot to generate dog images. So for this example, we're going to be using an API provided by random.dog. So what random.dog does that? It's an API that just gives you random images of dogs. So we're going to write a script that is going to send a request to the website and then fetch a particular dog image and then redirect you to the dog image. So now let's run this code in our terminal. Transaction. Okay. So what mastery? So I already wrote the code, the code that is here. I wrote it here already. So I'm just going to like run the code and then we'll see the response we get. Okay. So now, when I ran the script, it opened my browser and then it redirected me to an image or a video of a dog. Now let's go back to the code and then study it line by line. So the first thing we did was to import some libraries that was responsible for making the request and all. So now we created a function called generate dog image. And then what it does is that it sends a request to the random.dog API. Let's open this in our browser and then see the response we get. So opening this random just gives you like a random file. Gives you a random file. Each time I refresh the browser, the image is changing. So what I just did was request was successful by returning the image URL back to the user. But then if there was an error, let's say from their server or a request or something, let's just show an error message. And then we use the web browser module to just like open the given URL in our browser. Okay, now let's move on. Next exercise is we're going to write a bot that is going to fetch cryptocurrency prices. So now, studying the code here, what we did was we created a function that takes in a parameter, which is ticker, an argument basically, a parameter which is ticker, which is basically a ticker of a cryptocurrency, let's say BTC, ETH, or whatever, and then it makes a request to crypto compare API. It checks if the request was successful. If the request was successful, it checks if the ticker you specified actually exists. If it does not exist, it throws you an error. If it exists, it gives you the price. And then if there was an, let's say, the request itself, the initial request was not successful, it throws another error. Now let's run this program and then see what we get. Python 3 to fetcher. So enter a ticker. We can enter BTC. It makes a request to the API, tells me that one Bitcoin is worth $32,000. Search for another ticker, ETH, and then what we get is we're getting the current price, which is 1,900 and so on. So you can just keep on searching, and or it will just basically do this same thing over and over, taking the input, send the request to the API. If the request is successful, give us a response back. Now, our third exercise, this is a bit complex because we're going to be mixing, because we're doing a lot of web scraping here. So now, write a given word. So now let's go through this code here. So what it did was it takes in a parameter, which is word, makes a request to dictionary.com for that particular word. If the request was successful, it does all this. Now, what I mean by all this is that it uses the beautiful soup library to pass the HTML of our response, and then it just fetches, just does some web scraping in the given HTML response, tells us the lunar position, the meaning of the word. It scrapes all the meanings and then it generates particular text. If the given word does not exist, it tells you that it does not exist. And if an error occurred while trying to like fetch the meaning of a word, it tells you that there was an error. Now let's run this code and see. Let's run this code and see what we get. So now in the code here, I already gave it a parameter, which is find the meaning of the word intent, and then this was the response. It said intent was an adjective. Tells us all the meaning, the first definition, second definition, third, fourth, all the way to the 10th. So now let me actually open this URL in my browser. So when we open this URL, dictionary.com/intent and the rest, this is the page that was given. Intent tells you that it's an adjective, tells you all the meaning of the word. Number one, existing or occurring in a high or extreme degree, acute, strong, vehement, sensations, or whatever of a kind, of an extreme kind, and so on. So now what we just did here was we automated the whole process of coming to this site. We automated the whole process of coming to the site, searching for a word, and then coming here to go through the meaning of the words with some code that we wrote here. So now you might be wondering, we've been writing single functions that just do a particular thing. The first one was generate random dog image. Second was to fetch cryptocurrency price. Third was to find the meaning of a word. Now, how do we actually build an application, or how do you actually build an actual bot from this? So now the next section here is we're going to do a live coding session, and then what we're going to do is that all these three functions, we're going to combine, we're going to create a Telegram bot that would integrate all this code into it. So the Telegram bot is going to be able to generate a random dog image, fetch the price of cryptocurrency, and tell us the meaning of a word. So now let's get started. I'm going to be opening my text editor, and I'm going to be making a Telegram bot. So there are a lot of social media platforms that you can use to develop a bot. You can use Telegram, you can use Slack, you can use Twitter, Discord, Twitch, or whatever. So I'm going with Telegram for this session because it's one of the easiest to get started with. So I'm just going to create a file and then just name it bot.py. So now there's absolutely nothing here. So now how do you actually get started with building a bot with a social media platform? So the first thing you need to do is find their API documentation. So for Telegram, the API documentation is api.telegram.org. And then when you open this URL, it gives you the documentation, and then you can just like go through everything that is here. It tells you how to get started with bots, gives you all the functionalities that you can find in a bot and the rest. So now let's get started with building our demo bot. So now, luckily for us Python developers, some group of people came together and like wrote an API wrapper for Telegram API, which is here, which is this. I don't bother about this. I added the link to this slide, so you can always come back to this. So this is a API wrapper for Telegram that allows you build bots easily. So now, if you want to install this wrapper, all you have to do is come to the installing section and then run this command in your terminal. So just basically pip install Python Telegram bot. So now let's get started with building our bot. So they also added a very short article that shows you how to like build a bot. So we're going to be using the article from the documentation to build our first Telegram bot. So now this is the article here. So now the first thing you need to do is import the Telegram module and then instantiate the bot with your Telegram token. So I'm just going to copy this code and paste it in my terminal. So now you might be wondering, what is this token parameter here? So when you create a bot for any social media platform, they give you an API token. So you use your API token to just basically use your bot. So now when you make a request with your Telegram token to Telegram server, for example, they use that token and like just know that, okay, this request is coming from this bot, just basically an API token. So now how do you actually go about creating that API token? Let's open Telegram. So now we need to search for an account, which is bot father. So now the bot father account on Telegram is used to create Telegram bot. So I'm just going to start it and then it gives me the list of commands. It says, hey, I can help you create and manage Telegram bot. If you are new to the Telegram API, please see the manual. The manual is what we viewed before, so we don't need to go back there. So now let's create a new bot. So now it would ask you for the name of your bot. Let's say ECX bot mastery. Now it will ask you for a username. Let's call it ECX bot mastery bot. So now your bot must end with the name bot, or you must just end with the name bot. So you can call it mastery bot or mastery_bot, but make sure that the last 3 characters is bot, or else it won't accept the name. If I had to send this, for example, it will tell me, sorry, the username must end with bot and the rest. So let's name it your mastery bot. So now it says that it has created the bot for us and then you can access it here. Then it gives us the API token. So now this token here is what would insert into our script back. So we're coming back here and then we are pasting this here. So we've imported the Telegram library and then we've created an updater. So you might be wondering, what is an updater? So an updater just takes an API token and then whenever somebody sends a message to your bot, it updates your script. So now the next thing we'll do is that we need to create a dispatcher. So what is a dispatcher? A dispatcher allows you handle requests that your bot gets. So for example, now the updater just basically tells you the message that was sent to the bot. then the dispatcher is responsible for handling that message. So we go back to our script and then we'll paste the code there to create our dispatcher. So now we need to now create a function for our bot. So now Telegram bots work like this. They're just basically like API endpoints. So your API or your website or whatever is there. And then when somebody sends a request to a particular route or a particular endpoint, it triggers some form of code that would run. So let's copy this code here. Let's paste it inside our script. So now we've created our updater, which gives us the message. We've created our dispatcher, which handles the messages. Now I've created a function which does a particular task when triggered. So now the next thing we'll do is we have to create a command handler. So a command handler is what we pass to our dispatcher to just basically tell you that, okay, whenever you receive this command, do this particular thing. So we'll copy the start handler, and then we'll copy this. So what this code here does is that if somebody sends a start command to your bot, it should trigger the start function. Now, what does the start function do? The start function just sends a message back to your user. Now, how do you identify users? We are going to use our chat ID. So now each Telegram user has a chat ID. So a chat ID is just basically an identifier on Telegram's server. Let's say like your email or like your Telegram username or your Twitter username or something, just some particular ID that bots can use to send messages or keep track of a particular user. And then it's going to send a text, which is, I'm a bot, please talk to me. So now when we set up all this into our script, I'm going to let the script get started by calling the start calling function of the updater. So now with this code here that we got from the official documentation, we've officially created a script. So now we've created a Telegram bot. So now let me run the script. Python 3 bot.py. So now it does not actually output anything because we did not tell it to output anything. But now when we go back to our Telegram bot and then we click on it, it tells us start. When I clicked on the start function, it told me, I'm a bot, please talk to me, which is the exact text we provided here. So we can tweak this and say, hello world. Restart the server, restart the bot again. When I click on the start function again, it tells me hello world. So now let us get started with integrating all the scripts that we created before. So now the first thing we should integrate is our dog image function. So now what we want to do with this is that whenever somebody calls a particular function in our bot, let's say dog, it goes to this API, generates a random dog image, and then sends the image back to the user. So now to do that, we're going to create a new command handler here, which is dog. And then we take in the parameters, context, update, and context. So this update and context, what basically do is that whenever you create a command handler and it's triggered, it passes this last function you specify here. So now the update parameter just basically stores information about your user, the user who messaged the bot. It also contains the message that you sent and all of that. While the context here is the bot instance. So you can use this to like send a message back to the user, while we use the update to get information of the user who sends the message to the bot. So now we have a function that says def dog. Now what we want it to do is that it should come to this guy here and then call this function. And the first thing I'm going to do is import our other file. So just basically say from dog images, import generate dog image. So now we now have dog image equal to generate dog image. So now what this is going to do is that it's going to go to this file and call this function. Now what this function does, like we explained before, it just goes to this API and fetches a random dog image. Now I want to send this image back to our user. So now you might be wondering, okay, how do we send images through Telegram bot? So now that is what the documentation can help us do. Can we just come to the documentation and then search for things like that? Okay. Let's work. FAQ. Manual. Let me see. I'm actually looking for the part in documentation that highlights how to send images back to the user. Okay. So the Telegram bot provides the Telegram module provides a function called send photo. So we can use that to send our image back to the user. So context.bot.send image, passing the chat ID. And then the image itself would be photo is equal to dog image. So now, after creating the function, we also need to create a command handler for that. So we can name this dog handler. It's going to listen for the command dog. And then when the command dog is triggered, it's going to call the dog function here. And then we add it to our dispatcher. So shut down the script again, we start it back to our bot. Now when we call dog, that's no attribute. Send dog, okay. Send image. Okay. I think the function is called send photo. Okay. So now our Telegram bot sends us the picture of a dog whenever we call the dog command. So now let's go over what it does. When it receives the command /dog, it will trigger this function here, dog. Now, when this function is triggered, it goes to the script created before and then generates a random dog image and then sends the photo back to our user. So we've integrated the first function into our Telegram bot. So the next function we want to integrate is they want to fetch the prices of cryptocurrencies. So now, like we did before, we'll have to import that function from crypto fetcher, import fetch crypto price. We create a function that says def crypto update context. Now, let me just let this pass for now. And then create a handler for that. Crypto, which is the name of our function. And then here would be crypto handler. So now, when somebody calls the crypto command, what we want them to do is want to first ask the user for the cryptocurrency they want to know the price of. So the first one I'm going to do here is just basically send them a text that says run the board dot send message. Copy this again and say text is equal to enter the cryptocurrency you want to get the price of. So now we've created a function. So now let's run this and see what we have. So we come here and call the crypto command, and then it tells us enter the cryptocurrency you want to get the price of, and then I see something like BTC, and then it does nothing because we've not created a command handler that would handle when a particular user enters the cryptocurrency they want to get the price of. So now every message that is sent to the bot has to trigger a command handler, just like root in an API or something. So now all the command handlers we've been creating before target a particular command, start, dog, crypto. But now we don't have any command that is triggered when we just enter a plain text to the bot. Now let's go back to the documentation. So now the documentation tells us of an echo function. So now what the echo takes us of an echo function that uses a message handler and filters. So now what a message handler does is that it helps you handle messages sent to the bot. Before we've been using command handlers. Command handlers help you handle commands to the bot, but then a message handler helps you handle messages that are directly sent to the bot. So now let's import its dependencies and then create an echo handler. And then copy this. So now, what our message handler does is that when you send a message to it, it just basically sends you the message back. So the text of the image is the text of the message was stored inside the update variable inside the message or text. So this function is just going to take a message and then send it back to the user. Now let's run this. Type BTC, tells us BTC back. We type hello world, tells us hello world back. But now we don't want it to just tell us the message that we sent back to it. We want it to fetch the price of this, fetch the price of whatever cryptocurrency we pass in, and then give us the price back. So now we already imported this function. So what I'm just going to do is name this, create a function, create a variable called ticker, which will be assigned to the message. And then instead of passing the text back to the user, we can just pass in the result of this function, ticker. So now let's run this again. So crypto. Enter the cryptocurrency you want to get the price of, and I enter BTC. And the response it tells me is 1 BTC is equal to this. I can enter TH, XRP, BCH, and whatever, and then keep on telling me the price of whatever I passed into. So now let's go back to this again. What exactly did we do here? We first created a command handler which handles the command called crypto. So now the crypto command just basically asks the user for the cryptocurrency they want to get the price of. So now the user would see that message and be like, okay, I want to get the price of BTC, ETH, or whatever. And then once they send a message back to the bot, it triggers our message handler. And what our message handler does is that it would trigger our echo function. Then our echo function will just basically take the ticker and then send a message back. Just fetch the price of the coin and then give the user back the response. So now we've successfully integrated the second function of our Telegram bot. So now the last one we want to do is our dictionary bot. So which just basically takes a message as input and then tells you the meaning of the word. Now we're going to create another handler for that. Let's name it dictionary handler. It's going to be triggered when you type the word dictionary, and it's going to call a function called dictionary, and then passing the dictionary handler to our dispatcher. Next, okay, we create a function dictionary update context. Let's let this pass for now. So now the first thing we want to do is ask the user, enter the word you want to get the meaning of. Let's restart our server and run this again. /dictionary. And then when you trigger the dictionary function, it asks you, enter the word you want to get the meaning of. So now, we've not actually specified, we've not written the function that would actually fetch the exact word, the exact meaning of the word that we input. And then if you look at it again, by the time we enter a word, it's going to basically trigger this echo function. And that echo function would treat it as if you are trying to fetch the cryptocurrency price. So now we need to have some kind of variable or some kind of data store that just basically stores what was the last command that our user entered to the bot. So our user can come and say, I want to get the price of the cryptocurrency, or I want to get the meaning of a word. So now let's tweak our functions a bit. Let's create a global variable. Let's just create a variable here that just says last command. Let's make this a dictionary. So this last command dictionary is going to store the last command that a particular user entered to our program. So now when you call the crypto function, we are going to say, okay, let me also split this out and say chat_id is equal to this _id. And then we're just going to store the last command of that particular user. So the last command of our particular user here is crypto. And then we can adopt this same thing to our dictionary and just say your last command here should be dictionary. So now, when you call the crypto function, it's not just going to ask you for the message directly. It's going to store that, okay, the last command that this particular user stored in the bot, that the last command, when you call this function, before it tells you to enter the name of the cryptocurrency that you want, it's going to say that, okay, the last command that you triggered in the bot is that you want to get the price of a cryptocurrency. So after storing that, it's going to tell you to enter the cryptocurrency you want. Now, for the dictionary side, it's going to tell you that, it's going to store that, okay, the last command that you triggered was the dictionary function, and then you want to get the meaning of the word. So now we can come back to our echo function and just say what is the last command of our user? User last command is equal to last command dot get your chat ID. Let me use the chat ID again. Now, what this is going to do is that it's going to just basically fetch the last command for that particular user and then store it in that variable. So it's in the user last command. So now the next thing we now need to do is that we'll just check. If your last command is crypto, tell you the crypto price. But if your last command was dictionary, call the function to get the meaning of that particular word. Okay. Get chat ID. So now, if the user last command is equal to crypto, we're going to indent all this block of code here so that it is only triggered when your last command is crypto. Now, after telling you the price of the bot, we don't just want it that your last command, okay, we don't just want it that your last command should still remain crypto. You can always just come and say last command chat ID is equal to none. So we cannot reset it after we've told you the cryptocurrency price. We can now say something like if the user last command is equal to dictionary, we're going to get the word that you entered to the bot, which is update.message.text. And then I'm going to send the meaning of the word back to you. Send message. Chat ID. Chat ID. And then the text should be, let's go back to our dictionary function and just say find word meaning. We have to import this function inside here. From dictionary import find word meaning. So it's now going to be the result of the find word meaning function. So now let's run our bot again. So now we have 3 commands in our bot. So first, okay, we actually have 4. First is the start. So start just tells you hello world, what we defined there. So now we also have our dog, which just gives you a random image or a random video of a dog. Our third function is crypto, which tells you the price of a particular cryptocurrency. You have to call it again and then say ETH. Now the fourth function is our dictionary. So basically call the dictionary and then enter a word you want to get the meaning of, and then we can search for intent. And then it tells me the meaning of the word. Come back again, you can just search for another word. Let's say angry. And it tells you the meaning of that word. Now we're actually done all of this. This is the end of the demo session. Let me check that. Okay. So now we're done with our live coding session. So now you might be wondering, aside Telegram, are there other social media platforms that allow you to like build bots on them? So we've seen Telegram already. This is the link to the documentation. You can check out Slack documentation for their own way to build Slack bots or Slack apps. You can check out Discord API that shows you how to create their own bots. Even Twitter, okay, my VPN is not on, so this won't do it. This shows you how to create Twitter bot also. So you can also create bot for Facebook Messenger and then Reddit. So these are links to all the documentation on how to create bots for each of them. But then every single bot follows the same, every single social media bot follows the same logic. You get your API key, you create your handlers. Your handlers are just basically functions that will be triggered when a user does a particular thing. And then you have some form of command handler that just listens to what the user wants and then sends and then triggers the various functions that are responsible for handling that particular command. So I'm also including some learning resources here, and one of them is actually the GitHub repository that contains all the bots, that contains the code of everything that we did here. So I'm going to commit the code I wrote during this demo session here after this talk, so you can just like see everything from here. All the code is here, so you can always just come and play with every single one when you're less busy. So I also included a link of an article. Okay, this is the official Telegram bot SDK. So you can always just come here and know all the functions, get started, installation, and then there's the article to create your first bot here, and then introduction to the API if you just want to like play with everything. So the third resource here is I included a link to an article I wrote once that just teaches you how to create a Telegram bot with Python. So if you don't really get all what was said here, you can just come and read this article and then it guides you through the whole process all over again. And then the fourth resource here is a list of public APIs that you can always just come and integrate to your bot at any given point in time. So this repo contains a lot of APIs. So you can try to build bots that consume these APIs and then just use that as practice. And not just limited to Telegram bots, but basically anything, whether you want to build web apps, you want to build any form of thing. This is a lot of, this is basically a repository, like a collection of APIs that you can use to build whatever you want to build later on. So that's the end of the session. I'll tell everybody thank you. So the link to the slides are available here, bit.ly/ECXBotsMastery. Okay, let me paste this in the chat section. And then you can follow me on Twitter and then you can read my articles also. So once again, thank you everyone for attending this session.
Thank you, Solomon. It was a very insightful session. I'm sure everyone here gained one or two things from the different bots you have been able to build with us, even the live coding session. So everyone, if you have questions for Solomon, we still have a few minutes along the line. If you have any questions whatsoever, it will be available to answer them right now. So you can drop your questions in the comment section and I'll be reading them out. So we are waiting if you have any questions for Mr. Solomon before we end the workshop session for today. So anyone, any question on anything so far? Okay, for those asking, yeah, I'll drop the link to the slide in the comment section. You can check it out. Okay, Casey is asking, for large users, is a global dictionary still used to store
Okay.
users?
No. What's okay? If you're actually like building a bot that would be used in production, it is advisable that you create a database. So, for example, now in your start function, what I usually do is that in all my bots, in my start function, I check if that particular user has been saved in my database. Actually, I create a database of users. So I'll just check the chat ID of that particular user. If the user exists in my database before, I go on and go on to tell them hello world. But then if the user does not exist in my database, I first store the user information. So the kind of information I might store about a particular user is their chat ID, their username, their first name, basically any other information that I ask from them later on. So now there's a part how I usually like store the last command is that there's a particular let's say you're using an SQL database now, you can just like create a column that and name it, let's say last command. And then you store the last command of that particular user in that column. So for example, now for the user for the first time, the value there can just be none. Like the user does not have any command. Then when you call this crypto function, what you can just do is let me just say, just run an SQL query that just says SQL. This is naturally going to run. Just say update users set last command is equal to crypto where their chat ID is equal to something else. So you just store it inside your database. So now when you come back to your echo function, instead of doing this and saying fetching from a global variable, you fetch it from the database. So you can just say something like a user info is equal to select star from users where chat ID is equal to whatever. And you can now say the last command of that particular user would now be equal to user underscore info dot their last command. So for production, don't use a global variable because this script now, if I were to restart the server like I've been doing during the development process, you'd lose all the information. So the best thing is to store it in your database. So I hope that answers your question.
At Casey, I hope he answered your question excellently. Any other questions? We still have like 5 minutes left. All right, yeah, he said it does. Yeah, his question was well answered.
Yeah.
Okay, we have from Isel. What web hosting service do you use for hosting? Heroku, Netlify.
Okay, so
Isel.
personally, I actually use Amazon EC2, but it's not compulsory you use Amazon EC2. You can host your bots anywhere Python codes can run because this is just basically a Python script. So as long as you can run a Python script on that server, it can run. And then when making Telegram bots, there are actually two ways of making Telegram bots. The first way is what we highlighted here, which you create command handlers and all of that. The second way is that you create an actual web app, an actual API, and then you create an endpoint on your API, and then you tell Telegram that, okay, whenever somebody sends a message to the bot, forward that message to my API endpoint, and then you process, and then you just do your processing yourself. That is a very manual method. You don't have all the function, all these command handlers and all of that. So if you had to go with that route, all you have to do is just install your app on Heroku or buy hosting or something. But as long as you can run Telegram script on a particular server, you can run a bot on that same server.
Awesome. Isel, I hope he answered your question excellently, which he did. Any other question? Oh, sorry, I skipped that. Mr. Olajide, what's the YouTube channel name? The YouTube channel name is ECX Unilag. I'm going to be posting the link right now. Make sure you share and subscribe. The recording is going to be on the channel soon, a couple of hours after. Yeah, Isel said, okay, thank you, understood. Ingenious underscore O2. What's the link previously sent for? What link? Okay. That's sorted. Any other questions? We have few minutes. Any other question? Mr. Solomon is here, is ready to answer it. Any other questions? Oh, I don't really get what ingenious underscore O2. Don't know. It's not the first link. What link exactly are you referring to? Oh, the first link. The first link with the link to his slides. He dropped the link to his slides. I'll be sending that now. That's the link to his slides. So you can go back if you want to review what he explained in the bot mastery session. You can go back and check his slides. That's what he was dropping that link for. We have a minute to go. Any other question? You're welcome. Any other question? All right, from Casey, what if 5 users hit a command at the same time? Does the hosting service handle it or the programmer?
Okay, so actually, the client itself, all this telegram.ext, the SDK itself handles it. So normally what the SDK does is that this starts pulling, handles each message sent to the bot one by one. So whenever you send, let's say 5 users send a message, let's say even the same command to a bot, Telegram puts all the messages in a queue. And then your client itself, this code, your script would process each of the message one by one. So it first takes the first person on the queue, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth. So now that just basically how it handles it. It puts everything on the queue. But then it's also possible that you handle everything in threads. Like as the messages are coming in, they are being handled. There's an additional parameter you can pass to the start polling method that tells you that, okay, you want to handle all your messages, all the requests to your bots at the same time, concurrently or whatever. I just use multiple threads. I think let me see if I can search for that command again. Python. Now I've seen the command. I know I've seen the parameter before. Okay. So somebody said you can actually use this, run at sync, and then this. So now that is for the client method. Now for the web server method that I said that you can create an endpoint, and then Telegram sends all the messages to that particular endpoint. Now your server would handle this by itself. As messages come to your, normally a particular website, most people can access a particular website at the same time, and then the server handles all the processing. So your server would automatically handle it. So you don't have to bother yourself about multiple users messaging your bots and all you just have to bother yourself with is when your bot starts scaling, you need to like really do a lot of optimization so that users don't start receiving responses slow. So about the whole multi-processing and concurrency and all of that, don't just bother yourself. The client itself handles it for you. Even the Telegram API handles it for you by creating a queue for all your messages.
Thank you very much. I hope we answered it. Casey, I hope you are satisfied. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Casey said, oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Mr. Solomon, is there anything you would like to add? We're about to round up the session. Any other thing you want to say before we quickly round up the session?
Okay, I don't think I have any.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Mr. Solomon, for your time, for making this session so insightful, and for walking us through a live session of how to actually make our own bots. We are all very grateful. And for everyone who attended, we say thank you to you all for giving us your time. And for the recording, it's going to be available on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, you subscribe, and share it amongst your friends. Our YouTube channel name is ECX Unilag. I've dropped the link in the chat section. I can drop it again. Okay, let me drop it again for everyone. Just a moment. Um, okay, there you have it. So that's it. That's our YouTube channel. The recording is going to be there a few hours after. And that's all for this session. We sincerely appreciate you all for your time. And that's it. All right. Thank you all. You can all leave now. Bye.
Stop sharing.